First-person shooters are arguably one of the greatest genres of video games, but my all-time favorites still have some issues, like Counter-Strike literally being just a broken mess, Doom having its own amazing block maps, Rainbow Six not being a good game since Siege X, or Bone Lab, which drains my battery like crazy. But every time I mention that, some neckbeard says, well, why won't you make your own game and see how it is? So that's what I'm doing today, or more like over the span of few months. Okay, step 1, already watching a tutorial, goddammit. You have to get the Unity hub and Visual Studio, which totally didn't take like an hour to download, my internet is super fast, trust me. After that shit, I was instantly thrown into a 3D project, which... thanks, I guess I won't have to figure out where it is. I then toured the Unity engine and decided that all of the tutorials besides the UI are pointless. Well, time to start with the basics, the player and a rough concept of a test map. For the map, I reused the one from the tutorial, and for the player, I added a beam. Now the hard part. The player. You see, according to me in the past, a player was a pre-made thing in Unity, but nope, guess what? It damn isn't. Time to hop into Visual Studio and create a player. I then followed some guy's tutorial and guess what? Even after copying it, it doesn't work. So I concluded day 1 and went to sleep. Okay, I decided that I kinda need to hurry up with the movement, so I found this little line of code and decided to do what every skilled programmer does. After messing around in the player input settings... Hell yeah, we got movement. I wanted to originally make this a Doom port, so I instantly clamped the camera and removed jumping. Of course, I clamped the camera at minus 180 and 180, which really shows how I failed my geometry class. I tried to incorporate some sprint, but that just didn't work. So I cranked up movement speed and added some smoothness to it. And so far I'm pretty happy with how the movement turned out. Okay, here's one of the most important things in FPS. The actual weapons. So this is the plan. Add a pistol, somehow make an inventory system where you can switch between weapons, then add the brass knuckles and the shotgun. To match the shittiness of this game, I hopped into Blender, downloaded some Barrett 92 perspectives and got to work. I luckily know how to use Blender a bit, so it won't take too long. But now it's time for my worst nightmares, the textures. I decided to go for the simplest and arguably the better looking way, and that's just stretching the actual image over the model. Although it was getting kinda late, so I decided to conclude day 2. So for the textures, I decided to split the actual image into numerous parts and then just reconnect it back together. This form of texturing is called photogrammetry or photoscanning. I personally just call it texturing. It looks super ugly, but hey, it looks like a weapon. I then realized that I can unwrap from view, so I just did that to make my job 10 times easier. I then found a script that will tell the gun how to, well, be a gun, and decided to not go for RNG since that's like black magic to me, so there will most likely be no random spread or damage. Anyways, I set up everything up and it's time to turn the cube I always use for orienting into an enemy, just to see how it reacts. Fuck. Alright, today we have a few things on the bucket list. First, fix the damn gun. 2. Check if the health on the enemies work properly. 3. Implement the inventory system and perhaps a shotgun. And 4. Start adding some animations. Okay, so if you didn't know what the fuck happened, don't worry, neither did I. But the whole error is because of this line of code that tries to cast a ray whenever you shoot the gun. It does so at the camera's position in the forwards direction. The problem with this is that I have private transform player camera. Hey, it's me editing from the future. The problem wasn't really with the player camera being a private, it was actually because I had it set up wrong in the hierarchy. That's because that we set the player camera to be the main camera in void start. The problem is that I deleted main camera like at the start of this project. meaning the game couldn't find the main camera, therefore it didn't know where to cast the ray. The reason why setting it to public worked is because then we can put the camera we want in the inspector. Long story short, writing a private would make the game automatically search for the camera, putting a public allows us to do it manually. The script is giving me some errors, but just like in communist Russia, I just swept it under the rug and pretended it didn't happen. When I started modeling the shotgun, I decided to go off the Remington Model 870. So let's delete the cube, add in the shotgun placeholder and add a cube and start modeling. After like 10 minutes of modeling, I realized that I can use a cylinder instead of a cube to make the barrel, which is shaped like a fucking cylinder. I didn't realize that the tops of the weapon looked so bad, so I just moved the weapons to the side a little. And just to complete the roster, I went in and created the knuckle dusters. The topology of this was pretty insane, but I frankly don't give a flying shit about that. I added all of that to the weapon holder, which will store all of our weapons, and added a script that told the game to equip the most top weapon. So we will sadly spawn with our melee and not a pistol. After that, my Unity project crashed and deleted everything, which is very nice. I finished the weapon script, and guess what? It's not working, and mouse scroll down also isn't working. So I asked people for some help and finally got to the point where it actually worked. For the sake of simplicity and my brain cells, I decided for the shotgun to have one powerful blast. I then hopped back into Blender to make some animations for the pistol, but that alone took me 30 minutes just for the firing animation. And God knows if it will work properly in Unity. Spoiler, it won't. I then did some tinkering around in the animator and accidentally made a pullout animation. I was a bit hesitant at first, but then decided to roll with it, so I made this pretty cool draw animation. The movement is a bit exaggerated, but I kinda like how it looks. And just like that, I concluded day 4. Okay, tonight I want a few things done. First, at least model all the weapons I previously mentioned. Second, make the weapons be an overlay so it won't clip into objects. 3, make a reloading state. 4, turn off the camera clamp. And 5, start perhaps animating everything. I tried Breaky's help on the reloading, which kinda worked, but that means I will have to remake the whole shooting function. So I gave that up for now and made a camera overlay. That luckily didn't include some sort of coding, so nothing can go wrong. Okay, now it's time for the reloading. I first had to remove the magazine from the original model and modeled an actual movable magazine. For simplicity's sake, I will go with Counter-Strike type of reload, where the animation will be shown pulling the slide or handle every time you reload. Whoa, guess what? For some reason, Blender breaks every animation you put into Unity. Guess who spent a whole day animating the fucking gun? Well, it's time to start over again. I made an even doper reload animation and tested it out. For the rest of the day, I also added a function that will allow me to give weapons a sound. Okay, yeah, due to yesterday's slight issues with Blender's compatibility with Unity's animations, I'm kinda behind, so I got few things done while I had time in class. All I really did is make the sound for the pistol and shotgun a bit better, although it's still a placeholder. And I added some new sexy animations for the shotgun. If you're wondering why the actual hell does a Remington have a magazine, well, it's because I don't know how to code a proper shotgun reload without breaking the entire game. Anyways, let's get to fixing the shotgun and animating the brass knuckles. I also found a bug where if you typed R really fast, then it would reload like 4 times, which I fixed swiftly. And also a bug where the animation didn't play fully. Remember this will hold me for a while. I fixed that by removing the shooting boolean that would play the shoot animation if the void shoot was triggered, and instead added a trigger. I then discovered a bug where if you try to reload while firing, the whole animation just crumbles on its own. I kinda forgot to record the next like 30 minutes, but all I was doing was just making the firing a bit more functional. I then eventually gave up and decided to add a small adjustable delay when you press the Okay, what the fuck? I typed number R in the script, what the fuck? I then eventually gave up and added a small adjustable delay when you pressed R, which is a pretty good feature for now since I get no animation overlay. Very cool. Okay, now the real forgotten weapon, the knuckle dusters. They have always just been sitting there on their own, so it's time to give them some proper use. I finished them in no time with a pretty simple animations and made their ammo 0, so you won't well reload your knuckle dusters. But I feel like the animation is a bit weird, so I changed it from a jab to a left hook, which looks pretty nice. The weapons still have some junk to it, but I feel like I will fix them later on. Okay, I have few things planned for today. Add a reload animations for the weapon when their ammo count is 0, model the MP5 and fix the shotgun shells material. The reload was actually pretty simpler than I thought. It checked for if the ammo is less than 0, and if it was, it would trigger the empty reload animation. But if the player pressed R, then simply played the normal reload animation. I couldn't come up with a new shotgun reload without it looking too close to the empty one, so I just made an animation of a shell being caught up in the extraction. The shell was pretty weird. The texture in Blender was working, the ugly sphere had the texture stretched all over it, but in Unity it was blank. I then remembered that the texture I used for the shells are in the stupid format no man uses, which is WebP. So after a quick conversion to PNG and re-importing the shotgun, it was fixed. As for the pistol and other weapons, I'm planning to make the empty reload animations a tactical reload. If you don't know what a tactical reload is, it's when you save the magazine for later. You know, the weird thing in Call of Duty. So I made this one for the pistol. And I purposed the old reloading animations for, hold your heads when I say this, the empty reload animation. I then started modeling a side-by-side shotgun and decided that I should fully texture the shells, since you're gonna be looking at it when reloading. And after long and painful 3 hours of fixing my terrible Blender work, and Unity just saying no, we have the boomstick done. Yeah, 3 hours for this trash model. Good job me, very cool. And just like that, that's the first week done. From Thursday to Saturday, I didn't do anything on the game, just besides making some plans for it. I polished the SMSG since my classmate said it looks like it's from Minecraft, which first of all, fuck you jackass. Second of all, I added some triangles to the stock and added hammers. Oh, guess what? Since I changed the rig, it broke the entire animations. Yay! Also on Friday, I decided to make an AK. But not make an AK, but make an AK. What I'm trying to say is that the AK-47s are for losers and communists and, I don't know, Counter-Strike players. So instead, I'm going with the Czechoslovakian classic, the Vzor 58. The dust cover looks so bad, but I believe I will fix it someday. On Saturday, I just fixed some bugs. And on Sunday, I worked on the UI, mainly by adding health, which is really just copy-pasted enemy logic, a cache system and some ammo, and added all of those on a black rectangle for better visibility. So that was day 8, 9 and 10. Over the few days I worked on the MP5 from modeling to rigging to texturing and animating it. I wanted to leave the HK slot for the empty reload animation, so for the weapon pullout I just made the stock being pulled out of the gun. I know that the bars on the stock go on the gun and not inside, but that's not something I'm worried about. For the animation alone I took some inspirations from Valor and Spectre, aka the copied MP5 from Counter-Strike. I then re-added jumping and fixed me just being able to fly.
Hey yo, the pizza here! Oh!
I then decided to start incorporating enemy AI and add dashing, cause my mom always said dashing is cool. I want the enemies to be a fast-ish pace, and dashing is a totally original idea never seen before, so guess what? We are adding dashing. The dash wasn't that hard, half of the time I was spending disabling that stupid autocomplete. For some reason, when I typed float, Visual Studio Code auto-completed it to void on failed connect to master server Unity engine.network connection error. Honestly, it's pretty close to float. Thank you Visual Studio, very cool. I then watched the entire Steam market plummet since now we can trade up to knives in Counter-Strike, like what the fuck. To make dashing better, I added a sound and a meter. Does that basically mean rewriting the entire script I was slaving over the past 2 hours? Yes. I ripped out the dash sound from Doom Eternal, found some sonar beep to use as dash ready, and found a bug where in midair you will gain more dash rather than on the ground. For some reason, I coded in that if is grounded is true, which basically means you standing on the ground, then it will regenerate at half speed. I started today by fixing the entire gun script, so empty reload, reload and shoot will now wait for the animator to be in idle. Although I had to disable the knuckle dusters since they were still broken. It's not that I pretty much rewrote the entire gun script, it's just broken like that since version 0.1. I then tried fixing the dash not locking your vertical velocity when midair. I had a first version that just was full of shit. The second version kinda worked, but I just gave up. And went in to fix the dash ready sound. I then found a simple tutorial on Unity AI and added that with some tweaks. I added some HP to the projectiles so you can destroy them, which was all of day 11. On day 12, I decided that I should start modeling some healing items. So far, I can only think of adrenaline, which will raise your HP by 40, and beer, cause hell yeah. The adrenaline was simple, I originally went for an EpiPen before deciding to make my own texture for it. Jasně, kámo, zapni se kohota z píčenek. I took some inspiration from SCP Secret Lab since that game has pretty nice animations, and wrote a script that when you press Q, it will activate the stim and play an animation. At the same time, it will play an animation on the weapon holder, which will be just the weapons being holstered. And once the stim animation is done, it will go back to being drawn. I did that for all of the weapons, but I found an oversight that you can pretty much skip the entire holstering animation by switching to another weapon. I'm gonna leave it in for now, cause I'm lazy. But I missed a crucial part about the stim, the actual healing. So after like 2 hours of mashing my keyboard, I finished a script that has a modifiable heal amount, and also delay. The script isn't that much different from the actual heal test, hour 30 of troubleshooting, but I was pretty happy with the results, which is how I concluded day 12 and this part of the video. Alright, so I believe that went fairly well. 20 minutes and nearly nothing is done, that's awesome. But yeah, I will have to cut the video this early since it's getting kinda long and I haven't uploaded anything in a long time. I'm not gone, I was just working on this, and while writing this I made a list of ideas I wanna add to the game and a rough sketch of a first map. So if you want to see that, then subscribe and stay tuned.